Welcome to another episode of the Grateful Redhead podcast. I'm Angie Ringler, and I am so grateful to be speaking today to Steve Trash. Yes, I am actually fulfilling a dream of mine by interviewing a rock star. But even better yet, I am interviewing an eco rock star. So I can't wait to talk to Steve today about what he's been doing and what really got him to this point of being able to share with us interesting ways of learning how to reduce and reuse and recycle, but more importantly, how it comes to play with music. So let me not steal any more of the spotlight. And Steve, take it away and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, that's a really nice introduction, Angie. Thank you. When I was a little kid, I'm dyslexic. So I was looking for a way to learn to read a little better. And I got really fascinated by magic tricks. So I dove into magic and I learned lots and lots of magic. And I became a professional magician, right? But doing magic tricks wasn't ever enough for me. And when I stumbled on the idea of doing tricks with trash, all of a sudden it became very appealing because I could not only do interesting magic, but I could share something that I cared about, which was waste reduction and people's connection to the environment. And that eventually grew into making music with found object musical instruments and, frankly, just getting musicians that I knew that were professionals to work with me on songs that I thought were interesting.
That's so cool. I did see that you played an electric drill on one of your songs.
Yeah. Drill. In every show, I have a cigar box guitar that is amazing. I mean, really, really like wonderful because I've open tuned it to G, which any of your guitar player fans out there knows it's just 3 strings and it's G, D, G, right? You just strum the thing and you make a chord and you look like a rock star, you know, look a little bit like Keith Richards anyway.
Personally, I always wanted to be like a backup singer or the drummer because I'm so into, obviously you're on the Grateful Redhead podcast, tells you a little bit about my genre of music. So I thought it was really great when I listened to your album, the Green album, right?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah. It was a little bit of a joke. I grew up adoring, I mean, at the very top of all lists musically are the Beatles. And in my mind, the Green album was a hilarious version of the White album. You know, and I didn't put anything on the cover. It was just a green, you know, and it said the Green album. Yeah, Love you know. But yes, thank you for listening to that.
Oh, yes. Let me tell you, there is, I wanted to ask you, since I was so grateful to have you on my show, I would get a chance to ask you if you actually played guitar on, my favorite song on there was Reduce, Reuse, Recycle, actually was the name of the song. Did you play guitar on that? Because that is pretty raging guitar work.
Okay, the really raging guitar work, I absolutely did not. The guitarist, see, here's the thing. We were talking about this earlier, but I'm friends with all of these Muscle Shoals Sound professional musicians. There's a little community here, and you just call them up, and you're like, hey, man, I got this song I'm working on, and it's about the magic words. Could you drop in the studio for like an hour? So that is Kelvin Holly. Kelvin has played lead guitar for the amazing Marissa Mason. He played lead guitar for Little Richard for the entire last 20, 25 years of his career. And these professional musicians are so good because you tell them what you need, and they talk for like 30 minutes of the session, just sort of, just shooting the breeze. And then they're like, well, what do you say we make some music? And then they sit down and they play exactly what you heard, which sets the guitar on fire. So yeah, Reduce, Reuse, Recycle is one of the best solos you'll ever hear. And that's totally Kelvin Holly.
It is fantastic. So everybody that's listening today, please go. And I'm sure Steve at the end, he'll tell us where to find him, but you've got to listen to that song. It is so, so awesome. Not only the message, but the music is fantastic. So let me ask you a little bit, kind of like what got you into like being eco-minded? I'm always curious, what was it, an aha moment or a lifestyle, or what got you into the environment besides the fact that we need this planet to live on?
It's really, it's always sort of been with me. My dad was a forester. I grew up in Texas and in Alabama, and my dad was a forester. My mother was a school teacher. So we spent a lot of time outdoors. The thing is, if you don't have a lot of money, like I never went to Disneyland and we didn't really go on family vacations. We went camping because you can do that almost for free, right? So Alabama is an extremely biodiverse state. So we would go camping around the state. And even after that, my preference was to be out of doors. And one day it dawned on me that it was not everybody had that advantage. And I was like, I can take my skills, one of which is being able to interpret really complicated things and make it very simple. So a 7-year-old can understand it, or a grown person who thinks like a 7-year-old can understand it. So really it was always sort of with me. It just sort of took me some time, I would say, to hone my ability to be clear about our connections to nature.
Yeah, because I know you talk a lot about recycling, right? That's kind of the theme, I feel like, in your, besides the magic that you do on stage. I felt like really the theme of what you do is a lot to do with recycling. Have you over the years had to maybe change the message at all? With the more we're learning about recycling, we're finding out like a lot less can be recycled and that things aren't really being sent to the recycling. Do you change your message at all when you're speaking to elementary or middle school or students?
The answer to that's actually complex. The overarching is that I'm a business person. I made a choice a long time ago to be a for-profit company rather than a not-for-profit.
Right.
I could see what was required, and I was like, I just think I can do more as a for-profit business. So do I have to sort of move the messaging for the market? Absolutely. Does the message remain consistent? Absolutely. But I would say more than recycling, because recycling is a theme, but the recycling is way more than can you recycle in your local municipality? Because if you look at the planet Earth, built into its operating system is recycling. The air that we breathe, the water that makes up our bodies, the land, it's completely sustainably recycled. It's why the planet is so old, because it keeps using the same resources over and over and over and over and over again. If you can't recycle something, or it's not being recycled, that's a failure of enterprise. It's not a failure of the idea of recycling. It's because, frankly, we've not committed to buying recyclables and closing that loop of recyclability, or we are making things that simply can't be recycled. We're making and using things that can't be recycled. They can't be pushed back into the system again, and that we need to make better choices, if you will.
No, that was really well said. I mean, the planet's been around a long time and been using a lot of the same resources that were here when we all got here. So I like your connection with that. Well said, Steve. Have you always been playing music? I mean, you kind of touched on that earlier. Did it start with the guitar?
When I was a little kid, I played the guitar, but not until about 10 years ago. And I'm coming up on my 40th year in professional entertainment. And I didn't really add music until about a decade ago. And it was simply because, I just sort of looked at my career and I was like, I know that there are people that don't like magic tricks. There are people that don't think I'm funny. There are people that don't like the fact that I'm a snappy dresser, right? I know people that will like music. What if I took a shot at writing some songs using the sort of ideas that I know I can translate for listeners? I'll write them. I wrote all of the songs on a cigar box guitar, take it into the professional musicians that I know, and let them do their magic. If the funny thing about professionals, you were talking about being a backup singer. Oh man, I know some amazing backup singers, some of which, by the way, have actually sung with the dead.
What?
So you go in. right. So you go in and you get these professionals to help you, because my notion was, I don't care how I do it. I want to shout about everything in the natural world being connected, and we need to make decisions, all decisions, based on those connections that exist in the natural world. And one outlet was just simply music.
Yeah, I always wondered, even when I was in school, and being well out of school many years now, I wonder why we don't put more lessons to music, right? You think about how many songs we've learned over our lifetime that you remember every word of that song. Imagine if our lessons could be put to music. And I feel like that's what you've done with the messaging, which is why I was so intrigued when I saw you, so long ago. And I was like, man, this guy, he's onto something for sure. He's definitely onto something. Is that kind of grown? Tell me more about that.
Well, some of your listeners will probably remember Schoolhouse Rock, and they're probably grown. And if they remember Schoolhouse Rock, it's because you put a message, to music. And you're exactly right. That's what I was going for. Now, whether I accomplished that or not, I don't really know, but it doesn't really matter to me. All I'm trying to do is find an in to share the tiny little thing that I know really, really well with people so they can make better decisions. Because what we did is Joseph Campbell, a couple of years before he died, said, Bill Moyer asks him, so what do you think this new mythology is going to be? And he says, I can't tell you. There are too many variables. But he said, I think it's going to have something to do with one planet, one world, one planet. I think it has to do. And he was right, because look at how connected we are, and we know that we're connected. It doesn't have to be a pandemic. It could be your cell phone. It could be the fact that you and I are communicating across hundreds, even thousands of miles. Now, once we know those connections exist, it's not that big a huge a leap to see the connections that exist between the air and the water, and my water and your water, or my air and your air. And we need to start making all of our decisions with that in mind, something we have not done in the past, because we kind of thought somehow our lives were segregated from all of other living creatures, and that's simply not true.
Yeah, we have this idea that there's some magical wall between the countries, and that it's keeping out pollution, or, something like that. And it's not. I mean, we're all on this planet together. So yeah, it's about making that connection and knowing that if we treat it well here, there's a good chance things will be well somewhere else too. So what kind of magic do you do?
Well, I'm always looking for a theme, like a way to illustrate some easy concept. Let me see. Let me give you an example of, okay, here's an easy one. You and I, we believe that we are separate from each other, right? But my job is to actually transform the way that you see it. Yeah. Job is to transform the way you're seeing things from the old way into a new way, right? You just take a simple little magic trick that you could buy for like $3 and you do something interesting with it, right?
My God.
And that's my favorite. That's my favorite thing to actually do.
Steve. Okay, for all the people who are just listening on this podcast, I hope that you watch the video feed of this, because he is doing some pretty cool magic, and it's all about perception, right? It's all about how we perceive what we're seeing at that moment. That's
right. And that's exactly what a magician is perfect for, this, because we have been seeing things as an illusion. The fact that we see them as disconnected is the illusion, not the connection. And so a magician is the perfect person to break through that illusion and say, guys, we've been misperceiving this thing. And that's the beauty of magic. Magic doesn't have any beauty in terms of the skill of what a magician is or how cool a magician is. None of that matters. What matters is all human beings have little holes in our perception. We all have. They are the assumptions that we make. And all humans have to make assumptions because it's considered too much of a cognitive load to think everything. An example I use is when you woke up this morning, did you look down at the floor and think to yourself, oh, I hope the floor is not chocolate pudding? No, did you?
I might have hoped that it was.
No,
but
you
I didn't
didn't.
think that.
You hoped it was, but you made the assumption that your floor was solid, right? You made that assumption, but there's no reason overnight that it couldn't have transformed. So all of these assumptions that we make, we start with a false assumption. We will always end with a false conclusion. Right? Yeah. That's how magic tricks work. And we have this false assumption that everything is disconnected and not connected. And that's why recycling is such almost a powerful metaphor, because everything in the natural world works, in cycles.
Right. In cycles. It's so true. So, I did see on your website that you do a lot of, which I didn't realize when I first learned about you, because I'm pretty sure I read an article about you and your music in it's one of my favorite things that I read. It's like Green America or one of those great organizations that I support. I think it might have been Green America that I read an article about you. But then later when I went to your website, I saw that you do a lot of things in schools, right? You're doing these shows. What kind of reception are you getting from these kids when they're seeing things from this different perspective about, living on the earth or trash and things like that?
Right. Well, an excellent response, because I had to make a decision early in my career whether my audience would be primarily grown-ups and families or primarily children. Sometimes I'll do family evening shows, but really those are fairly few and far between. So I really focused most of my stuff on the kids, because I kind of thought, if you catch a kid, but when they're 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, you transform that child's view of the world. It's way, way harder to get a grown-up to change his or her mind than it is to get a kid to just simply see the truth of the matter. So if you get in there and you take, look at the way advertising works, big national advertising, associate really positive, wonderful feelings with an idea that you think is value, because my product is not Steve Trash, even though I put my name in big, huge letters every time. My product is the connection that everyone has to nature, right? That's the product that I'm actually selling, right? And so that remains the thing. And I just have to figure out clever ways to make that interesting to children. Here, I'll show you an example of how I did it. I wrote a book even called The Magic of Ecology,
Nice.
22 magic tricks that kids can perform, and each trick illustrates an ecological principle or an ecological concept, right? And that was just one other way to get into kids' heads.
Yeah, because then they're going to learn it and they're going to want to share it with their friends.
Right. And you know what? And they will start from that base place of, oh, well, this is just accepted. I just assume that everything in nature is connected. I just assume that reduce, reuse, and recycle are the magic words. I just assume that I should, when I'm a grown-up, choose a reusable diaper for my baby rather than a disposable. I just assume that I'm going to use a reusable cup. I just assume that I'm going to buy products made of recycled content. I mean, plastic is a tricky issue, but like green toys, they make really high quality toys out of HDPE milk jugs. They're really high quality because I beat the heck out of stuff. So I've bought and tested. Hey, that's pretty good stuff. If you can't close the loop, at least reuse those materials.
Right.
And our kids get, they get that up front.
Yeah, and by learning it in such an easy and fun way, it just changes the perception of how we're learning these things, And so how does it translate into your life? How are you living a green lifestyle at home?
Well, let's see. Okay, so my wife and I, we just celebrated our 27th wedding anniversary on
Congratulations.
July 2nd.
Way to go.
Thank you. Well, we actually built our house together before we were married. So we figured, hey, if we can survive building a house together, we should get married. It'll be a thing. But I live in an earth-bermed house. The entire south-facing wall of the house is all windows. So during the summertime, our house is covered by trees, by shade. But during the wintertime, they're deciduous trees, so they all lose their leaves. So we get direct sunlight coming on the house, in the house. We use, obviously, I have a compost bin. It's an old clawfoot bathtub out in the backyard. Great. I have excellent compost.
Wow.
And I have a 21-panel array in my front yard. It's beautiful outside, so we're making energy from the sun.
Oh my gosh. So you guys built the house together. Can you expound upon that a little bit? That is very interesting.
Yeah. Well, she and I already had the notion that we wanted an earth-bermed house, right? We wanted it to have as much thermal mass as possible. The temperature of the earth is it hovers around 58 degrees, depending on how deep you are, right? So if you think about it this way, if you've ever been in a basement, the basement is always cooler, right? If it's hot outside. So we wanted our house to be like that. So we built this house together with really thick concrete walls, the second floor thick board, because it holds on to the temperature. The earth brings that cooler temperature into the house during the summertime, and then during the wintertime, 58 degrees is warmer than 22 degrees, so it's bringing that warmer temperature in as well. And we did some other interesting things, but we physically did most of the work ourselves. She likes stucco. I like stucco. Once I finished putting all of the stucco on, I did not like stucco anymore. It was,
your wrist hated it.
Wristband. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So
but we physically did most of it ourselves.
Is the house like built into the earth a little bit? When you said the concrete walls, is it like dug down into the earth?
Yeah. We would have gone deeper. If you can see photos on stevetrash.com on my bio page. Okay. We would have actually gone deeper, but in Northwest Alabama has a great deal of limestone, and we got down to the level, and the builders said, this would be really solid if we stopped right here. We could go deeper, but we have to start blowing stuff up with dynamite. And we're like, let's right here be fine. So we actually did want to go deeper, but it's on a very, solid foundation. So yes, that first floor is mostly below ground, except remember, all of the south-facing side of the house, and it's 2 stories. It's all windows. I think we had like $24,000 worth of windows,
wow.
Double pane insulated windows. So we don't hardly ever turn a light on during the day. You don't need it. There's a lot of natural ambient light actually coming into the house,
So I get, like, when I envision it, I feel like it's almost like it looks like maybe those windows are like in the side of a hill almost. Does it give that impression if it's kind of in the side of a hill?
Yeah, well, not as Hobbit-like as we would like to for it to have been. I think that's
what I have in my mind.
Because, well, the challenge is that little creepy crawlies will, if any of those windows have wooden frames, that will begin to rot, and the little creepy crawlies will come in. So you kind of want to segregate that, but there is only about 1.5 feet. 2 foot gap there to the next floor. So the ground comes pretty high there. We also recycled a lot. You have to use very thick boards to hold up that much concrete, because the second floor of our house is 6 inches of poured concrete. Wow. Because again, concrete really holds on to temperature. It really holds on to temperature well and releases it over time. So we wanted that. So we just took those boards and built our staircase out of the boards that were left over, and we took recycled doors. Our bathroom door is just a door that someone was going to throw away. We're like, that's a pretty door. Let's just put it here. So we just put the door there. The house looks a little hodgepodgey, but I think it's nice. Better Homes and Gardens probably not going to show up, but they might. You never know.
Hey, and as long as you guys love it, and it sounds like it's lasted, you said 27, maybe 30 years ago you guys built it?
It's probably 29 years old right now, because we built for about 2 years. We lived in a trailer right next door to it, so we could go over, work on it during the day, because I was touring and my wife is a professional graphic artist. So she had a straight job, doing her straight job. I would tour, come home, we'd work on the house, go back, work on the house. But it was very much, we put it where she wanted it, because in her mind, she had imagined this. This is where the perfect place, because there's a bluff on each side of our house. Well, that's not true. On the east side and the south side are bluffs. So, and we're at the end of a road. If you are at our house, you're coming to see us, or you are desperately, desperately lost.
Did I just hear an invitation to your house? I think I did.
Sure, but you can just kind of get out of the car and say, "Hey, I'm lost, man. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be."
So is she into magic or music, or do you just impress her with your skills all the time?
I believe I cast my magic spell over her, and that was the last time she wanted to know anything about magic. But interestingly enough, Angie, she is a shockingly good. She's a potter in her own right. But what she's really good at is 3-dimensional. I'll throw her a project and say, I really need this prop. I'll say, ooh, I need a size 120 pair of Steve Trash pants. Can you make that? And she'll make them, right? Or I'll say, yeah, you know what I need? I need an 8-foot tall dream catcher. Can you make that? She'll make an 8-foot tall dream catcher. Or I'll say, I've been working on this thing where the earth is as good as cheese pizza. Could you make me a 5-foot tall cheese pizza?
Oh my God.
5-foot tall cheese pizza, right?
Well, they do say,
she likes it.
They say behind every good man is even a better woman. So I think you just proved that again right here today.
Well, I don't want to offend any male, but I will say that I have come to this place where I realized at a certain moment, my executive secretary, there's this long list, the lady who runs my website, they're all grown women, Angie, all of them. So I'm not sure. But it's kind of a thing, it's kind of a thing. So, my wife, who's just an amazing artist, and all of these other women, all of the people on payroll, they're grown women. Is that a thing for me? I don't know.
And they seem to be doing a really good job for me. So yeah, I'd say it's a thing. Steve, it's been so lovely talking to you today. You are such a good spirit. You're like this fantastic vibe. I mean, I just love your energy. And I think that's what attracted me when I first read about you. And I couldn't be more happy that you took the time to join me here today on my podcast. And is there anything you want to share with our audience today before we wrap up?
Yes, I have 2 things. Do we have 3 minutes?
Oh, I've got all the time for you, Steve.
All right, then there are 2 things I want to share. The first is this. Okay, now for you folks listening, I'll describe what's happening. Angie, I want you to reach into your pocket, please, and I want you to take out an imaginary deck of playing cards and just show it to everyone. Okay. And just nod your head and assure everyone that you and I did not set this up in any way.
Okay, I'm going to reach into my imaginary pocket because I don't have one on my dress. Pull out imaginary cards.
And
okay,
show your imaginary deck of cards.
Okay, here they are.
Angie, they're in a box. There you go. Okay, take them out of the box, all of the cards.
Okay, here they are.
Spread all of the cards out, if you would, please. Spread all of the cards out. Now reach down and take one of the playing cards, Angie. Take one.
Okay.
Got it?
Yep.
Now,
hiding it.
I have a deck of playing cards. Hey, Angie.
Yes?
Tell everyone what card you've chosen, including me. Tell everybody what card you chose.
Ace of Hearts.
Ace of Hearts. Now take the Ace of Hearts and flip it over so it's backwards. Okay. Now take the back Ace of Hearts and put it in with all the other cards.
Okay.
Now put it back in the box.
Oh, that's such a bitch to get them back in the box. Okay, they're in.
Well, I'm going to fall all over the place. The main thing to remember is Ace of Hearts, the one you chose, is the only one that's going the wrong direction, right?
Correct.
Okay. Close the top on the box.
Okay.
Take the imaginary deck of playing cards and throw them at the invisible deck.
You ready?
Ready.
Okay.
So you and I did not set this up before we started, right?
No, honest listeners, this is my first time talking to Steve.
You chose a card and you flipped that card over in your deck of cards.
I did.
Wouldn't it be extraordinary? Wouldn't it be extraordinary if the only playing card that's flipped over in my deck of cards is in fact the card that you chose?
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! How did you do that? Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh, you just brought tears to my eyes. How did you do that?
All right, so for you listeners, I had a deck of cards, and the only card that was reversed was in fact the playing card that Angie chose. And what's fun about that is you see the impact that magic tricks can have on an audience, and imagine that you were to tie that in with something that you care about passionately, and my love for the environment. So I'd say my last message for your fans is, people, remember to reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Yes. Oh, bravo, Steve Trash. You are amazing. Oh, I am so grateful that you joined me on my show today. And I just hope everyone listening today and watching us has really brought a smile to their face and they've enjoyed it as much as I have. So before we go, tell everybody where to find you, because they're going there.
Great. On YouTube, you can listen to all of my songs, obviously, for free. It's Steve Trash Network. And truthfully, if you type in Steve Trash, Trash, just like garbage, I'm like the first 7 pages of Google, so I'm really easy to find. But if you really want to reach me, find me at stevetrash.com. But go to my YouTube. I'm all over social media. Social media is fine, but go see my YouTube stuff. There's great stuff there.
Yes, I highly recommend they go and listen to your music, especially my favorite, the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle song is fantastic. So, I just want to say, everybody, thank you for listening today or watching us today, and I hope you got a chance to see that amazing card trick. I'm still a little choked up about it. But if you know somebody amazing like Steve that you want me to talk to, please reach out to me. I would love to get a chance to talk to them. And until we all meet again, please be kind to yourself, be grateful, and love one another. Peace out. So before you go today, I want to thank you for listening to this episode. I've built a business on formulating natural household cleaning and body products without plastic bottles or plastic packaging. So if you'd like to give them a try, head on over to wastefreeproducts.com and use promo code GratefulRedhead for 10% off your entire order. Thanks for listening.